Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something that I'm sure weighs really heavy on the hearts of a lot of aspiring lawyers out there, bouncing back after failing the bar exam. And, we're talking specifically to you, the repeat taker. And let me tell you the insights that we've got lined up from Jackson Mumey. He's the founder of Celebration Bar Review, been coaching people through this for over 25 years. They're surprisingly powerful.
It's so easy to just get lost in that aftermath of an unsuccessful bar exam attempt. So many people experience just this crushing sense of personal failure that can be really crippling.
Yeah.
What I find so fascinating about Mumey's approach is that he tackles this emotional aspect head on.
Yeah.
He doesn't even let you skip ahead to the study strategies. He really starts with you.
Yeah. He calls it grieving the loss, right? Like acknowledging this weight that comes with failing the bar. Like it's not just an exam.
Sure.
He even compares it, and this I love, to holding in a sneeze.
Right.
Eventually it's going to erupt.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that approach? Especially for those of us who, you just want to dust yourself off, jump right back into the books.
It's absolutely crucial.
Okay.
So often we try to just suppress those negative emotions, but they can fester and then they resurface at the worst possible times.
Okay.
Like, picture yourself in the middle of the exam.
Oh, God.
That's not when you want those feelings bubbling up.
Right.
Acknowledging them, processing them, actually giving yourself permission to grieve, that allows for a much healthier approach to moving forward.
It makes a lot of sense. It's like you can't build a house on shaky ground.
Exactly.
You need that solid foundation to support everything else.
And speaking of foundations, Mumey then talks about the importance of forgiveness, forgiving yourself for not passing, which, let's be honest, is often easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where this idea of a non-emotional evaluation comes in. He encourages you to look back at your performance, good and bad, but here's the really interesting part. He says to focus on your strengths first. Okay, let's unpack this success-based approach because I can already hear some listeners saying, wait, successes, I failed.
Right.
So how does that work?
Think of it this way. Even in failure, there are always areas where you excelled. Maybe you rocked those torts essays, but stumbled on the evidence multiple choice questions. Identifying your strengths, those areas where you truly shone, that helps build a foundation of confidence. And from that stronger base, from a place of, hey, I did some things really well, you're better equipped to analyze what needs improvement. It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah. It's like instead of focusing on that one thing that you messed up, it's like, okay, but I nailed that other part, so I know I'm capable.
Exactly.
Shifting your perspective.
Precisely. And this ties directly into Mumey's advice on what to do next. He is a huge advocate for diving right back into studying.
Really?
Like almost immediately. Don't delay, restart now is like his mantra.
Even if you're feeling like completely burned out and you just want to take a break, that seems counterintuitive.
It might feel that way, but think about it. You've just spent weeks, maybe even months, completely immersed in bar prep.
Hey.
The material is still relatively fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
Delaying often leads to increased anxiety and makes it even tougher to hit the books again.
It's like when you've got that killer workout routine going.
Yeah.
And then you take a week off and suddenly even getting off the couch feels impossible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where Celebration Bar Review's approach really shines. They understand that, that momentum is key. And they help you capitalize on what you've already learned instead of making you feel like you're starting from scratch.
That's a huge relief for, I'm sure, anyone dreading the thought of, cramming all those black letter laws back into their brain. But what about the people who feel like they do need a real break, like to process everything? Does Mumey address that at all?
He does acknowledge that life circumstances might necessitate delaying, but he generally recommends taking the next available exam. And here's where it gets really interesting. He also debunks the myth of needing 500-plus hours of study time. He argues that with the right techniques, especially for repeat takers who already have a solid foundation, 250 hours is often sufficient.
250 versus 500.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a game changer. But realistically, how do you cover so much material in half the time?
It's not about mindless cramming, that's for sure.
Right.
Mumey's a big believer in efficiency and targeted learning. He actually calls brute force memorization, the kind where you're just highlighting entire outlines, the least effective and the most time-consuming method.
Yeah.
He's much more interested in techniques like spaced repetition and active recall, strategies that align with how our brains naturally learn best.
Okay, so instead of trying to memorize everything, you're learning it in smaller chunks, reinforcing it over time, and actually, engaging with the material.
Right.
Working smarter, not necessarily harder.
Yeah.
But what about, like, the people who keep making the same mistakes? I feel like that's a trap a lot of repeat takers fall into.
He's got something to say about that, too. In fact, he has this analogy that's both hilarious and incredibly accurate. He calls it the Stinky Diaper Conundrum.
The what? Okay, you have to elaborate on that one. The what? You have to elaborate on that one.
So imagine like a baby's diaper.
Okay.
It's clearly full, right? It's heavy. It's probably got some questionable artwork happening.
Okay, I'm with you. Vivid imagery.
But what do? We keep holding on to it because it's familiar. It's what we know.
Yeah.
Mumey argues that's exactly what so many repeat bar takers do with their study methods.
Interesting.
They cling to what they've always done, even if it hasn't worked in the past, simply because it's comfortable.
Because it's that stinky diaper we're used to. Pouch. So how do we, like, ditch the diaper, so to speak?
It takes honesty and a willingness to try something new. Mumey challenges you to really analyze what didn't work and be open to doing things differently. This might mean switching to a bar review program that aligns better with your learning style, like, say, Celebration Bar Review. Their whole approach is built around this idea of individualized learning.
Right. We touched on that earlier with the spaced repetition. Does Celebration Bar Review have other methods that kind of go against, that stinky diaper approach?
Absolutely. They offer things you won't find in a lot of the more traditional programs like photo reading and audio meditations. They even have personalized coaching to help you identify those lingering bad habits, those, stinky diapers, and develop strategies that actually work for you.
Photo reading for the bar exam, that's a whole new level. It sounds like Celebration Bar Review is really trying to, like, shake things up to really find what works for each individual instead of pushing this one-size-fits-all method.
Exactly. And that's incredibly empowering, especially for repeat takers who might be feeling lost and discouraged. It's about recognizing that your bar prep journey is unique and you deserve support that meets you where you are.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. It seems like success on the bar exam, especially in the second time around, it hinges on so much more than just knowing the law.
Right.
It's about mindset, it's about self-awareness, and it's about having the right tools and that support system in your corner.
I couldn't agree more. Mumey's approach and Celebration Bar Review as an extension of that, it provides a framework for turning what feels like a devastating setback into a stepping stone.
Yeah.
It's not about viewing yourself as a failure, but as a work in progress, someone who's learning, growing, and constantly striving to improve.
It's about ditching those stinky diapers, which, by the way, is an analogy I will never forget.
Yeah.
And embracing a fresh perspective, a new approach, and hopefully, like, a renewed sense of confidence. So to all those repeat bar exam takers out there, you got this. Take the time to grieve, forgive yourself, and then dive back in, hopefully with Celebration Bar Review by your side. Until next time, happy studying.